Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode of Alliance on the Move. Tonight, I am your host, Dylan Mohammed, the president of Youth for Change, the youth arm of the Alliance for Change. And tonight, I have with me Mr. Onyx Duncan, none other than Mr. Onyx Duncan, who
Good
is,
evening, everyone.
good evening, Onyx, and Miss Lashana Pang is with us as
Hi
well.
everyone, good evening.
All right. So I'll give the floor over to Onyx just to introduce himself for 1 second.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Alliance for Change supporters. My name is Onyx Duncan, like Delon said, and I am an Alliance for Change member for about 2 years now, and I've been a political activist for several years. I've been fighting the great fight, and I believe that with the Alliance for Change, we can do everything, and we can make changes in our society, and we could be a better people for our country.
All right, excellent. Lashana?
Hi everyone, I'm Lashana Pang. I am new to this platform, but I am an AFC supporter for the past, let me say like 3 years, because I kind of like the AFC. So I want to fight the good fight, as Unik said, but I'm here. I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, so on tonight's program, we have quite a number of issues that are facing our young people. By the way, Lashana is from Region 3, the village of Tushen, and Onyx hails from Region 5, the village of Belladrum, and now residing on the East Coast of Demerara. So
Yeah.
tonight we're going to look at a couple of the issues that our young people are facing. And I think it's no secret by now to everyone that we are dealing with quite an economic crisis in our country. So one of the first things that we're gonna address is the inflation. Now, most of us who are AFC supporters, most of us who are, part of our movement are working class people. We go to our jobs every day. We work, especially in the public service or even in the private sector. And a lot of us work and we're not seeing where the money is going. You know, cost of living is high and salaries are not going up and so on. So I'm going to open the floor now.
Well, Delon, I I think I would say within the last 10 years, we have seen that cost of living has been dramatically heading to a peak in our society, and from growing up, knowing that when you could have go to the shop and bought a lemonade for $20 or $40, and a lemonade is about $100 now, you're definitely seeing the inflation in our society. You're seeing what inflation is, and 15 years, 20 years ago, what cost $100 now it's now $400, right? And
Right.
now $400. A small tub of butter was probably 140. That tub of butter, that small tub of butter is $300. So people
Right. Or
now
more.
are, yeah, people now can't, even manage to buy a small tub of butter. We can soon have to go back to the days where we got buy $40 butter, and I'm not sure if you guys know about this, but
Yeah.
there's certain
Yeah.
parts in our country where nut butter used to sell in grease spoon paper, so we might have to go back to
Right.
those days. When we ask the shop owner for a $40 nut butter, and they take out a spoon and they dip the butter and they put it in a grease spoon paper. So it's something that we need to look at as a society, and we can't just be one-handed, and we not and can't just look at things from one perspective, but we need to look at it holistically.
Right. Lashana, you are actually a chef, and we're talking about butter and the price
Yes,
of
I am.
food. Yeah.
The price of
Um,
butter Onyx is actually $540 for a pound.
But you see, I don't buy
A
butter
pound,
because I
sorry,
don't
to
use
me,
butter that
it's
much.
$600. I make
wow.
pastries and so for a living. Otherwise, I'm working at a
Oh,
bakery. I also work with myself. So
Right.
a pound of cheese is $980 to be exact, and I'm also a mother of three girls. So it's really rough out here. Apart from the
Mhm.
cheese and the butter and all the other stuff, let's don't talk about the daily prices, the daily things that we gotta get. As
Right.
much as you want to include the girls, well, I have girls. I won't be able to say for boys, but the monthly
Mhm.
expenses, mm-mm. I am telling you from my point of view, I am not working to bring in that money when the month comes. As much as
Mm.
I work in the private sector and I have my own little business, it's not paying. Sometimes
Yeah.
when you
And
do the work, like I do my business on the weekends, you're barely making a couple thousand extra to do what? To do what you've been doing all the time, buying stuff. It's like you're working to buy stuff. You're not working to get anything extra. Let's not talk about
right. Right.
greens in the market.
I remember last year, was it
I
last
don't
year or the
know.
year before, when we said
Hmm.
we were sharing a meme around, don't talk to me, I buy Bora today. I'm above you.
Exactly. Well, it's don't talk to me. I buy tomatoes today for $500 a pound.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Five
Yeah.
hundred dollars a pound.
Hmm.
Wow.
Wow.
$500.
We can go buy tomato paste in the tin now and just use it because
And as we're on the topic of inflation, let's talk about the school uniforms.
Oh
My daughter,
boy.
the baby, will be going to nursery, and I bought her cloth, and it's $1,500 to sew one nursery school child uniform. 2,500 is for an ordinary uniform in the market.
yeah,
Wow.
and when you look at those things, Dylan, these prices are going up, but what is the administration doing to
Hearing about it.
assist? You
Right.
know, what is the
That's the bigger
administration doing?
question.
The
Right.
one-off vouchers, the one-off cash grants, that's not gonna cut it. We have to
Exactly.
address the issue. We have to address the root cause of what is happening. Not just,
Right.
these things can come and go, come and go, come and go, but this is continuously happening. And from 1995 to now, inflation rate has gone up 224%. So
Hmm.
what are we doing as a society? Are we trying to bring down that rate? Are we trying to move it to something that we can manage? What are we doing?
Right. And I think the bigger question out of all of this, you know, as to what the government really is doing, what are they
Yeah.
doing, you know, is the question that most people have on their minds. I mean, some people, I think generally our society has been made to believe that, the government shouldn't get involved in everyday affairs of the people. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that, our people are making. We feel that, oh, the government has no obligation to us. So then why did we vote for them? You know?
A-
And
And that is the, and that is the thing, Dylan. They are
mm,
servants to us.
exactly. Exactly.
So
We the people hire the government. Welcome back, Lashana. Back to Onyx.
Nice to know.
yeah, we need to, as people, we are the ones that elected the government into office. We need to hold them accountable to certain things because they're servants of us. They serve us. So we need to always be in the forefront and letting them know that this is what is happening, because if they're not seeing it, and it's very, it's something that concerns me on a daily basis, because you would have your conversations with your friends and you're pointing out these issues that is happening in
Yeah,
society, and you're
yeah,
thinking to yourself, is the government even noticing this? These are the things that
right,
we should, do as a people. But when you
right.
come up with these ideas, you're thinking to yourself, the government don't see these ideas in their head floating around. Like, how am I coming up with these ideas? Aren't they that smart to do these things too?
The bigger question is if, not really if they're seeing these problems, but maybe are they actually creating these problems? You know,
Exactly.
And
to
that's another
benefit
thing.
themselves and
Exactly.
friends. Our leader, the honorable Kemraj Ramjatan, loves to say, they love to f up the country, triple F, friends, family, and
Friends,
favorites.
family, and
You know,
favorites. Exactly.
and if you're not in that bracket, It's like, oh, we don't care about you. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
ideas for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly how it appears. You know, what happened to price regulation? We hear so much talk of an open market, but we're seeing what an open market is doing. I'm not against a free market, but at the same time, you have to have some sort of checks and balances, because if you don't have that, then prices are going to continue to skyrocket.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
generally, people who get into business, the aim of private business is to make a profit, right, Lashana?
correct.
And
Exactly. Because
and
if I remember, the last time they
mhm,
had a shortage of sugar, when the government decided to sell the sugar at let me say a lesser cost, it was like just a
mhm,
$10 difference. So I really don't
right.
know. I don't
It didn't
understand.
it didn't make any sense.
They
And I
didn't
think that
solve
was
the
that was
problem.
when people were lining up for the sugar, right?
Yeah,
It
Exactly.
yes.
wasn't
When they said they were
right,
going to
right.
sell the sugar for a
Mhm.
$10 less, I don't
That
understand.
made
That
no
didn't
That
make
doesn't
any
sense.
make
difference.
sense.
Right.
That doesn't make sense economically. Because
And you
why?
still had
Exactly.
to line up, and then you were only allowed, I think it was like £10 per person.
Yeah,
Right. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. And apart from price regulation, I mean, the issue of salary increases. Like um we've had the two biggest budgets ever. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing is the audacity of this government to boast, oh, this is the biggest budget ever, and then we can't give you a proper salary increase when the
Exactly.
year come. Like how, so how do you expect, okay, the people in the private sector, well, I shouldn't say the private sector because it's not the entire private sector,
It's not. Yeah.
but yeah, there's a particular small elite of private businesses that basically is running the economy of the country. You know, when they decide, well, we're gonna hike up the prices because we want more profits, we want more money. That's how businesses operate. But you, as the government, you have to remember you have an obligation to the people. So you have to do something about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's either one or both of two things. You regulate the private sector somewhat. I mean, you're not going to put too much of restrictions on them because they want to make money, but at the same time you do it
That's
to
what
a
I was
point
going
where
to
they
tell you.
cannot
The private sector have a
exploit.
lot of restrictions.
Right. You can't.
Regulate is a very strong word for this
Very strong word.
administration.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
it's not in their vocab, so
No,
I don't think you're gonna get that from them, Dylan. It's not.
but it's very true. It's very true because they've been, since they came back into office, they've been deregulating everything. I mean,
Exactly.
you look at every sector, it's like wild, wild west.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are in charge can basically dictate
From
what they
bad to
want.
worse.
And yeah, and even if it's against procedure, even if it's going to compromise safety and so on, that has been happening in quite a number of sectors. And so it's no surprise that it's not the same in
Yeah.
um in economics and business. Um,
Hmm.
in addition, salary increases is the second option, and at the very least, give people a proper salary increase. You can't expect people to pay more for
Um.
stuff.
Well, Dylan, since we're on salary increase, I remember speaking during my local government campaign about salary increase and this administration. You know,
Mhm.
this administration had 23 years to raise salaries, and now they have
Right.
another 3 years, 26 years to raise salaries, and
Mhm.
they in within their 23 years of being in power, they didn't do anything to raise salary, and the
No,
APNU AFC coalition went in there and raised salary more than they would have raised the salary in 3 years. So
exactly.
this administration doesn't look out for the working class people. This administration
Not
doesn't
at
look
all.
out for people who want to make a change and move up a tier in life. So I'm
Right.
not sure where we heading as a people.
Right.
I don't think they
And
intend to raise it either.
No,
no,
no.
I don't think
no,
so.
no. We know that
There
definitely.
there have been
They
They
protests
have.
from
want
the
us to be
nurses and
dependent or
and,
whatever
and,
they
and
throw
the
at us. I don't think
teachers.
they intend to.
Right.
There have been constant protests from nurses and teachers to raise salaries, and nothing has came out of that. right? But if it was on the flip side of things and the APNU AFC coalition was in government and they protested, they would have came out from Freedom House, and you would have seen that, hey, we have to raise salary, and better believe it, the APNU AFC coalition would have done so
Would have done
because
it.
it's for the betterment of the people.
Exactly. And might I point out too, guys, that the coalition did not have the oil money.
Exactly.
You know, so when we were in government, you know, we didn't have the biggest budget ever,
Hmm.
to work with, and we still were able to give, you know, the public service proper sizable salary increases. So people were no longer. I've been in the public service for about 8 years now, and
Good luck.
I remember life was good. Life was good because when the year ends, you get that salary increase, you feel happy, and then the prices were not going up at the rate that they're going
That's
up
it.
now, and the salary increases were more than the rate of inflation. So
Yeah.
every year you felt a little more ease,
Hmm.
progressively, with each salary increase than we have now. Now every year you feel like you're regressing because the price is going up and the increase is not
And
matching
nothing
the
has
price.
changed. Yeah. It's not.
Yeah,
It's not changing.
yeah. So guys, I know most of you, um, especially those who are working, most of you feel it. You know what we're talking about. You understand, how this thing is working. The thing is that you cannot trust a government who is or which is controlled by private interests. And we're going to come back to privatization in a bit, but I'm just going to touch on it briefly here because once you have private interests controlling a government, it means that the government will betray the people. And that's exactly what is happening here. We have a government that is turning against us, not giving us what they ought to give us because they're busy giving the triple F what the triple F paid them for during campaign season,
Yeah,
you know.
but I know we're not on privatization as yet, but it is an
Mm,
arguable fact that once a business or something is privately owned, the profit margin goes up for that business, right?
right,
So it does better in a sense, right,
right.
than
Hmm.
when the government when it's state owned. But I
Hmm.
mean, we have to move away from that and hire people, and it comes back to all the topics that we have here combined today.
Right,
We have to move back to hire people with the skill set that
right,
focuses on that entity so that it can move up in society, so that it can gain the profit that it needs to gain, so that the
right,
country can progress.
right. The thing about it is that, I mean, privatization in terms of individuals is fine. But the issue here is privatizing state resources. It's
Sources, yeah.
basically taxpayers' dollars and privatizing it. And
Hmm.
that's the privatization that we're referring to here. And imagine, I'm working for this money and I'm paying it every month, to the government, and the government takes it and gives it to a random businessman for him to make profit for himself. It doesn't come back to the government. It doesn't come back to the people, you know,
The
and
people,
and
yeah.
that's the issue we're having here. The money is just being channeled into it, concentrated into the
One set
hands of
of
a few.
people.
Right. Yeah. So that's the issue there. Well, job opportunities. I remember what was it the president said? I think it was sometime last year or earlier this year. Anybody who would want a job now lazy.
Yeah, and
That's something of the
But
sort
but
fifty
that
thousand
the,
they were
jobs in the
campaigning. They
manifesto.
didn't say they would provide
well,
how much
that's
thousand jobs.
Yeah,
I
how much thousands? Like I think was 50,000. So
it
if
was
I'm wrong,
50,000 or
you could
was
I
I
you
can't
five
really
thousand
remember
or
the
fifty
figure.
thousand?
But
yeah.
I figure I now realize what they did. They went and they put everybody on to token some people. So that's what they did, created jobs for people who didn't have. Or I should
Like
I say
10-day
some people of their
workers.
own that kind because
Yeah,
I
Yeah, I
mean,
also find the
no,
workers' friends in this
let's be frank. Let's be frank. I mean, giving people a 10-day job is not really job creation, buddy. Like, how? I remember they opened a call center in Linden, I think.
Yes,
And
yes.
the majority of the young people said we ain't working there because they know is strugglation anytime they go and work there. You know,
And then like I said previously, if you put that call center into privately owned person's hands, it would run 10 times better,
better,
right?
right?
Do you
Because
know
the
there's a call
expertise
center
that
in
was,
Cushion that's never used? It's just
I
there.
think they also opened
It's
that
just
one
like
too.
4 5 years. They never use it. It's just there. It's
Yeah,
locked up all the time. There's a
yes.
security guard there. They never use it. It's
Wow.
just
They
there.
take taxpayers' money and invest in things to benefit themselves. So that
Hmm.
call center that was never used, they already took money out of
They
that and
already
put it
got
in their pockets.
their
They're
thing out of
shared.
it,
Yeah,
right? So they're done with it basically. Yeah, I
It's
think
just locked up there.
apart from the issue of job creation and there not being enough of livable jobs with livable wages, is the fact that the fact that a lot of persons are coming out of school now and they can't find jobs, right? And it's not that they can't find jobs because the jobs are not there. In a lot of cases, it's because the jobs are not paying, and two, because I mean, the persons who are hiring, you know, it's quite an ad hoc situation, you know. So I think we really need
There
to
was
do
this guy that I
something.
met on the road. He
Uh
said to
huh.
me, he said, "He's a normal guy in this neighborhood." He was like, "Neighbor, can't walk one walk in this country no more. Gotta walk two walk." I was like, "Man, you can get by." He was like, "Nah, me I tell you, me a there out there." I was like, "You sure?" He was like, "Yeah, I telling you." He was like, "You can't work one job. You have to have more than one jobs in order to survive in this country." And
and
this is
that's
coming from
true.
a man that have his
It's
own
true.
house. His kids are grown. And you come me to tell me that this man children are grown. He have his own place. He can't survive on what he works for. Come on,
Yeah.
man.
Well, Shauna, the thing is, you could have your own home, your own car, but remember, maintenance of that, where you're getting the
Right.
money from to
Exactly.
maintain those assets that you have, right? And
That's
we
so
have seen within the last 2 years, and all of these is sparks, and people can go and check it. Within the last 2 years, unemployment rate went up drastically. It's higher than than the years before, the years than this. It went up drastically. And why? Why? Why did it go up? People, when people look at looking for jobs, right? A lot of people, and I could tell you, 60 to 70% of Guyanese really is afraid to going into to privately owned business because they feel as though that this thing is not, it's not going to always be there. But then there's a fear of going into public institution and not getting paid the amount of money that your skill, that your certificate require, your diploma require. It's a fear all around. So it's a back and forth thing. So how can we change that as
true.
a society? How can we move away from that stigma? How can we move away from that disease, because it's spreading
Hmm.
drastically? And if the last 2 years unemployment rate has been higher than the preceding years,
Hmm.
where are we heading? Everybody's going to be
Right.
unemployed in this country. Yeah, we can go walk in GRA and it's going to be a ghost town.
On the topic of jobs as well, we've been seeing quite a number of resignations. I mean, people have been resigning in droves. So it's like on the one hand, you have people looking for jobs and they can't find. And on the other hand, you have persons just resigning left, right, and center and leaving. It speaks very much of how working class people are being treated in this country. And I think it's very despicable that so many persons have to feel. You ask the average Guyanese person on the road today, how they feel about living in Guyana. And one of the first things they will tell you, if not the very first thing, is that, oh, I just want to get out of this country.
That is true.
You
That is
know,
definitely
and
true.
so many persons, I mean, where I work
And
too,
most
the
times
sentiment.
those nurses come from very young people.
Yep.
Yes, yes, very young people. And the sentiment, I mean, where I work too, a lot of persons share that sentiment. I'm sure where you guys are working, and even where you're living, a lot of persons share the same sentiment too. They just want to leave the country because they feel like they're working every day, working so much, and the work is not paying off. And in addition to that, you have
Exactly.
situations in a lot of workplaces where e- in government included, and in the private sector, where persons are being mistreated and there's no sort of redress. I remember in most government offices, from the accounts that people would give, between 2015, I could safely say 2015 to 2019, right, persons were able to get redress, if they felt like they were being mistreated, or if they felt like they were being cheated, for want of a better word, out of their benefits, or out of their rights as a worker. They had a system of redress they could follow. Now, the very people who are the system of redress are actually the persons who are preventing you from getting the justice that you need as a worker.
Yeah.
And so this is the kind of situation that comes with an anti-working class government, a very capitalist government. I know we don't like to use the C word in Guyana, but I'm going to use it, you know, and this sort of system, where the idea is to exploit resources, exploit people just for individuals to make profit. It's something that has been creeping back into the public service, and it's everywhere in the private sector right now too. So a lot of persons are tired, tired, just leaving. How many nurses left within the past year alone? I think it was over 500 or something. Onyx, you had the figure.
It was over 500. Yes, it was over 500 because I spoke about it during my election, local government
Right,
election campaign. It was over 500, and
right.
and those are facts because people reach out to me as a social media influencer. People reach out to me, nurses reach out to me and tell me what is happening in our institution, what is happening in our public institution. Sometimes there one nurse working an entire ward, and
Mm-hmm,
that is so atrocious. We have
mm-hmm.
an institution that we're
Unacceptable.
supposed to cater for public health for our citizens, and we have only one nurse working an entire ward. How is that helping people? How is that benefiting us as a people?
Right. It doesn't make sense because even the persons who are going to public hospital, I mean, and they need treatment, the nurse got to divide herself so much among so many
Yeah.
patients. You can't
Let me
get
give
proper
you
treatment in a
guys,
situation like
and they
that.
don't know, and then
And
the
then
nurse is hollering on you. They have some
Mhm.
attitudes
yeah,
Right.
yeah, and then
as they're being
you have this
underpaid.
and you have this administration, and we going back to privatization because this year 2023 has taught me a lot when it comes to privatization with this government. I've seen it in the preceding years, but it has been more evident now with this government and with the president that we have, because his focus, his mandate, his agenda is privatization, and being in the private sector and all these things, right? So, and you've seen this government invested a lot, in the new hospital that they have. I'm not gonna call names. The new hospital that's going all across
The
this
big
country,
fancy hospital,
the
yes.
big fancy hospital that
Mhm.
one of them is owner of, right? I'm not
Right.
gonna call names, right?
Hmm.
But they've invested so much time into that and talk so much about We love when the private sector strides. We love when the private sector make moves. But you can't take a little out of the private sector book and bring it into the public sector and make our hospital beautiful and bring things that can be found in different parts of the world that we can assist patients with, so we don't have to fly them out. We
Right.
had a we had
Yeah.
a
And when you
tragedy
go
the other
there
day.
and you have to do
We,
tests and they don't have it, they automatically send you to these no-name hospitals that you don't want to call to do these
exactly.
tests
No, but
privately.
Right. It's true. It's true.
we had a tragedy that happened the other day, right? Where 20 young persons lost their lives in a fire, and we had to fly out people to get medical attention. The doctors are here, but because we don't have the equipment and resources, we can't do anything. We can't do anything. Where are we going as
And
a society?
that is very indicative of a lack of
Exactly.
vision.
And as we're on the
Yeah.
topic of talking, they say we have a dengue outbreak, right? I don't know how true to be. So I took my daughter to the hospital. She had these symptoms. So I took her. And when I took her, they say that any symptoms they have, like they list these symptoms, like if they have any one of the following, you were to seek medical attention immediately. So I took her. And do you know what they did? They just gave me a paper to go and do the test privately in the most popular hospital, private hospital, no name, over here
No
in
man.
Regent Street. And they sent me there to go and do it because they're not doing it at either of the public hospitals over here. Yes, the doctors that are working there, they're referring you because guess what? They have clinics there at these private hospitals. So
Yeah,
they're
those
really,
same doctors that
really
work in
interested
public.
in the public system. Mm. They're really
That
interested.
and it's a shame because it seems like there's a general agenda to run down public health, to force people to have no other option but to have to pay an arm and a leg and a kidney just to afford a human right like healthcare. You know, I could understand privatizing industries, privatizing sugar, privatizing commodities, and so on. But there's certain things that are human rights: healthcare, education, water. I am totally against the commodification of water because you mean to tell me that if you don't have money on any one given day, you got die of thirst.
Yeah.
You know, certain things are human rights.
Hmm.
And you cannot afford to have it fully privatized. I remember, let me just give one example quickly before we move on to the next thing. Ronald Reagan, the late, I call him a devil, the late Republican president of the US. Uh, I think it was from 1980 to sometime around 85. I stand corrected if that's incorrect, but I know it's the early 80s, early to mid 80s. He From the time he took office in the US, he went straight to privatization. Until now, that type of economics is called Reaganomics because of how
Yeah.
much he did it. He is the guy responsible for the American health system being fully private.
Yeah. The
You
40th
can't,
president of the
there
United
isn't a public
States.
hospital in the US.
Hmm.
You can't get, you have to get health insurance if you cannot afford your health care in the US. And it's sad because you still have to pay back that insurance and all the rest
Yeah.
of it, you know. And he tried to do it with education.
I don't think it would
And
have worked.
it didn't work because
It didn't
the
work. So
backlash, it didn't work. The backlash that he got,
Because education is a
he had
must.
to
You
say
have to
hands off.
get
All
that.
right, hands off. I'm gonna leave education because people had already been frustrated with having to pay for their
pay
health care,
healthcare. Uh-huh.
right? And now they have to pay for their children's education completely. You
Yeah.
know, it was more strain on the average working class person. So he got a lot of backlash for that. He couldn't touch the public school system, right? And we have a situation here too, where the general sentiment of parents is, you know, especially parents who might have a little more money than the average person. Oh, I me want to send my child to public school because I don't trust the public school system,
Drugs the system.
and I can send them to private school. That sentiment is here as well,
Yeah.
and it's because again we see another case of running down the public system, the public education system now. I believe personally that it is a deliberate effort to run it down,
So that
so
the
that
friends.
person
Uh-huh.
will have to be forced to pay the friends,
Mm-hmm.
family, and favorites to get private
Favorite.
education,
Yeah.
and that is an issue. That is a serious issue because parents who are barely affording to put food on the table for their children, you know, and to send their children to school, we had the 5B program, and a lot of the
Don't
buses
talk about the No Child Left Behind.
getting rust. A lot of the buses getting rust. A lot of the boats park up. I haven't seen any of the bicycles since 2020. And what's happening? Parents got to pay now, and those were targeted towards the parents who couldn't afford, who are
Exactly.
struggling to afford to pay for their children's transportation every day. And
Yeah,
now they got to pay again.
well,
And trust
and
me when I say
that's
transportation free.
well, and that's the
Mhm.
thing, Delon. When they give those one-off cash grants, those same parents forget that the Granger administration did so many things that can assist with you once you finish. Because that one-off cash grant will finish in a week or 2 weeks, and then you still
Right.
have to, you know, get money to spread out for the next for that semester. So
Exactly.
those
Exactly.
the transportation would have helped because it's $200 a day,
Mm-hmm.
go and come. Your money in your pocket, easy. You could do something else with that money, but we
200.
forget
Let's
those
try
things.
700 to 800 to 1,000 per day.
You
Right.
I have
see,
one
some
going
some
from
kids
five
have
and
to
one going
leave
from
the West
one.
Coast to come to Georgetown, and all of those things.
Exactly.
It's difficult. And how are we handling this as a society? We need to not look at it from our peripheral, but look at it from an holistic view. Because if we don't, and we don't compare what used to happen and what is happening now in regards to how we stand, then we're not thinking right, and we should always try to think right.
Exactly. I think. Oh, by the way, before we move on, I just googled Ronald Reagan was president from 81 to 89.
89 or something like that,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, it was 2 terms.
The
Anyway,
40th president.
But they
so
liked him enough to
so
vote for
so
him again.
back to the issue. I it's sad. You know, the majority of Guyanese have this mindset that I just want money in my hand. We have this ideology that, oh, is now I want this money now.
No.
You ask most of the parents, I mean, a lot of them might lie to you. What they did with the cash grant money, how much of it actually went to their children's education? One, and those who actually used all of it on their children, what did it actually buy? Because a uniform is how much, Lashana, for three?
If you buy the cloth, $1,500. If you don't buy the
Mhm,
cloth for a secondary school child, it's 2,500. It
mhm.
varies on where you go. You won't find it for less than 2,500. If the woman know you
Right,
before, you might get a little discount.
discount.
But it don't really make sense because you're buying the cloth for like close to 2,000, and you still gotta pay 1,500 to sew it.
To
And then
sew
it's
it,
best you go and buy it
exactly.
for $500 somewhere.
Right. That's one. And then you have to buy shoes, you have to buy
This
books, you
the
have to
school
buy
shirt, the
bags.
school shirt is close to 2,000 too.
Right. And by the time you add up all of these things,
It's more than the cash grant
The
money.
cash
it's
grant
more than the
finish on the
cash grant.
uniform alone.
Right.
It's more than the cash grant.
Right.
So
You know,
it doesn't make sense.
right. So, you know, a lot of issues surrounding jobs, surrounding education, surrounding work. This generally working class issues. It's
Mhm.
it's one of the things that
Exactly.
that is begging right now under this administration. The next thing we're moving into is the arts. Young people in this country, you ask any young person, um, most of them, they have some sort of artistic talent. A lot of young people can sing, some can dance, some can do visual art, and we have quite a lot. I've had lots of young people come to me, Dylan, I want to be a singer, I want some sort of opportunity. By the way, I had produced a music video in 2021, um, under the name Rafael Euros. And I mean, it didn't get a lot of traction relatively, but persons would have seen it and, they really liked it. And they came to me and they were like, Dylan, I want to do stuff like this. I want to produce music. I want to produce, I want to do artistic productions. What's going on? And honestly, I had to take money out of my own pocket to do it. There's no sort of system in place. We have a Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. We have a National Cultural Center. We have a National Drama School. We have a National Dance School. Well, the music school gone to the dogs. We can we can come back to that. Um, but we have these things, but still there is no proper system in place. Like most persons who are in the arts, like we said, first of all, you already got to work two or three or more jobs just to survive. Then in the arts, if you're doing things in the arts, it's even worse because it's you know doing the arts alone, unless you're one of the triple F. You cannot do art, any sort of artistic activity as a career in Guyana. You have to get a job, as we say. Even though
Exactly.
in most other countries,
You
being a
could just
singer
do
is a
whatever you
job,
want.
being an actor is a job, being a dancer is a job, and you can live on it. You know, we I'm gonna hand this over to Onyx because he is more of the expert. Both of us are in the arts, but Onyx is more of the expert on this.
Well, well, Delon, I've been a part of the arts for about 15 years, if I can, remember clearly. But for 15 years, and I've seen the arts, transformed, from the time that I know it, and then it relapsed because of people not seeing it as something important in society. And the arts is my baby. Sometimes it
Right,
comforts you. It comforts you whether you're going through what type of struggle, depression, whatever it is. It comforts you in some way, or some way that that you want to make a change in society, because it's not only the arts, because you're doing things to let people see, this is what can happen in certain situation, or this is what you can do in certain situation. But when
right.
you look at the arts in Guyana, it's I just want to use bad words. When you look at the arts in Guyana, it's just trash. It's just trash. I've represented Guyana at Carifest the 13 in Barbados, and that experience, I will always remember that experience. I it was a tremendous experience. When you visit the Daphne Hackett Theatre, the culture center had nothing on Daphne Hackett. And Daphne
Mhm.
Hackett is like half the size of the culture center. It's
Wow.
so 21st century. It's moving forward. The Daphne Hackett theater has things that the culture center don't have, but the culture center is built for the 21st century. And a lot of people don't know that. And I
So
always say it. When
right,
Burnham
right.
built the culture center, it was built for
For
2023,
now, right,
2020, 2085. It was built for that because it
right.
was built in such a way that it can facilitate so much things. And we I don't want to say we, but the politicians, because I am not a part of those
The powers
those
that be.
percentage of people that
The powers that
shy
be.
away from that. The powers
Yeah.
that be, the powers
Right.
that be.
You
You know, you look at the cultural center, and you have people taking the culture center for granted when it's one of our main theaters in this country. It's one of our main theaters because if we are to hold or if we are to bid for a Carry Festa, where are we keeping shows? Where are we keeping plays? We have to rely on the culture center and probably the theater guild, and
There
that
you go.
can't work.
Nope.
You're not investing in the arts to say that okay, and you, sometimes, and I'm a fair person. You have to blame. We have to blame ourselves too, because when we were in power, we had 220 something million in the budget for the arts to build a drama school or a drama building or something, but that didn't came into fruition. So
Right.
sometimes you have to blame. We have to blame ourselves. Why these things didn't happen? Why it didn't happen? Right? And like I said, going back to the Barbados and all of that, you understand from you get a sense of feeling from the different delegations, the Jamaicans, the Trinidadians, the Bajans, that they are invested in what they do. They are
Mm-hmm.
invested
Mm-hmm.
in what they do. You can go to Trinidad in August and they have the Pan Festival, and everybody's out there supporting, and no
Right.
matter what race, class, no matter what, everybody's there supporting. But then we have here a one Guyana thing going on for the longest while, and we don't understand where the one Guyana, what the one Guyana stands for.
Right.
It's more than one Guyana's in this country. They want
Definitely.
they
I
want to
think
see
it's
it as
three,
one
actually one
Guyana.
Guyana.
Yeah, they
No,
want to see it
honestly,
as one Guyana.
I think they just borrowed the name from China. China has a one China policy.
This government's
The
been
one
borrowing a
baby.
lot of things,
Yeah.
Dylan. If you look at the Priya Manik Chan initiative that she had the other when they
Yeah,
first
it's
came into
nice.
power, she had an initiative that reflect the same of the former first lady,
Right.
Ivanka Melania. Oh my God, these people just borrow a lot of things. So I they don't
I
they're just
honestly forgot
visionless.
about that speech.
They're just visionless. They're just
Right.
visionless people.
There's this thing, I
Visionless.
don't really know a
And
lot about
listen to
arts, but there's this one thing I like since I was a little, like in my teenage. Like, I know it's a poem, but it is do it like like in a way of singing it, like saying it. It is basically be poems, but it is got like instead of say,
oh, the
be like
spoken word.
Right.
yeah.
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 Yeah, but if I'm to specify the arts and talk about it specifically, because I am a big part of the performing arts industry, right? And when it comes to choosing people and selecting people to represent us on a wider stage, and that has been a baffling thing to me for the past 2 weeks, because I don't want to get a lawyer's letter, so I'm going to say a little little things here. I don't want to say a lot because a lawyer's letter might be hanging over my head, and I don't want to say a lot. But you look at these things. The first when this administration came into power, we had that Dubai trip. Now,
Mm.
bear in mind, I said I went to Carry Festa, I represented Guyana well, and I'm like, all right, that is it for me. I'm gonna give somebody else another chance. And I step back, and you better believe it, they went to Carry Festa again, and they performed a play. The National Drama Company performed a play that I was a star, a leading role, that I had a leading role in, and I did not go on the trip because I said, you know what, let somebody else get a chance. So somebody else
Right.
took my position. But with this administration, it's friends, family, and favorites. So you
Mm-hmm.
got a
Same
Dubai
people
trip.
over and over.
Yeah, you got a Dubai trip, and they're selecting people based on who they think stand with them. stand with them in their One Guyana initiative. People
Mhm.
who are now coming up in the arts, and who are now coming up as people in society that represent and pay and be patriotic. Some of them are not even patriotic because they just
No.
want to see their face on the big screen, or they want to be in every and anything, right? So you had people on that Dubai trip who I think should not have been there. And I'm not gonna call names, but you see these people and you like, how did they even reach there? Some of them came into the arts they were even 1 year into the arts, and you had to guess like how. There's so many people that could
Mhm.
have been on that trip that is more experienced, that has been in the arts and entertaining people for 20 odd years, and you send these people. I know we want to put young people to the front, but this is an international thing and we want to have the best representation. I understand that some of them were trained by the experience, so that's okay, that's fine. But then when you start recycling those same people, it becomes an issue. It
Yeah.
becomes a problem. When you start selecting based on, I'm not going to say race, when you start selecting based on skin color, it becomes an issue, right? And there's this thing going on right now. I'm not going to say much about it, but the National Dance Company have a lot going on, and
Mhm.
we as the opposition need to look into it because it affects not only the National Dance Company, but it affects us all, right? I thought the National Dance Company was like the pristine company of the country and nothing goes on. And when I look at it, it reflects the same of PPP, because the PPP might have a lot of issues and you don't hear about it because they don't speak about it. But the National Dance Company, they have been having so much issues within the last month. But because people are tight lipped and they're afraid of being victimized, these things don't come out, but then it seep out. And I've been hearing
Mhm.
that the minister wife has been controlling the National Dance Company, and she's been telling people and giving directives on who should be selected for this national performance, for this independence performance, and who to stand where during the when the camera comes, a whole set of things. And this is what is happening in this country when it comes to the creative sector. And you don't see that anywhere. You don't see that in Jamaica. You don't see that in Trinidad. You don't see that in
Mhm.
Barbados. But you have to always, everything that you don't expect to happen is happening in Guyana. It's happening in Guyana. Why?
Another thing I want to say about the arts is that the majority of it are, and by the way, the things that Onyx would have heard about the minister's wife are, these are allegations, right? Let's just
Yeah.
clarify that. Yeah.
Let's just clarify that.
Um.
I don't want to lie,
Yeah.
so let's.
Correct. Um. One of the things I've been looking at content from so many other countries, produced by art companies, both public and private. Doesn't matter to me. It's the arts.
Yeah.
It's good to have private companies. It's good to have government-run companies in the arts, and so on. But the content, a lot of it, I looked. There's a series that I follow on Facebook that is from Mexico. It's in Spanish and so on. But a lot of it addresses real issues. You know, it addresses issues of discrimination, issues surrounding women, being a mother, and these kind of things, bread and butter issues, working class issues, race, you know,
Hmm.
sexuality, gender, all of these things are being addressed. You look at content from Mexico, you look at content from, well, it's always in the US, from around Europe, even some parts of Africa, some parts of Asia, and South America. Throughout South America, you look at the content that their art industries are producing, and you look at Guyana, and it's like, what the hell we doing? Because
We
most of
don't even
our
produce contents like that.
we don't even produce content, exactly, because most of our artistic production is just for fun, just for entertainment, just to
Just
laugh.
for, yeah,
You
a
know,
live
so
performance and that's it.
And that's it, right?
It's
And I mean,
true.
even if it's a live performance, let it have some sort of messaging. What are we telling our people? We just telling our people, oh, come, enjoy yourself, laugh, go home, back to normal. And is
Yeah.
it? That is one of the reasons why I believe our people are not being educated on values. People
Mhm.
people don't understand, and they don't understand situations like these. People, they're not getting any sort of help, getting empathy for others and so on, because the messaging is not there. So people continue to live in their own little bubble. And then, you know, we just, to hell with everybody else. So we have a lot to do, in terms of our arts industry. Well, it doesn't even exist right now, but you know, um,
Yeah. I know that we are wrapping up, but I just want to
yeah,
say a few things. Again, those comments against the minister wife, those are allegations. But I just want to say a few things. We're coming down to CPL season, and I'm seeing a lot of things happening. And just this morning, I saw that they are launching an Echo Lodge or something for CPL,
So that's it.
and and they're launching an Echo Lodge for people to come and stay for CPL. All right, that aside,
And they're building it from
people are
scratch from
still in
wood.
this country that don't have a house and a land, but we are
land,
launching an Eco Lodge for people to come and stay. At the end of this CPL, what are we doing with that Eco Lodge?
right.
That's a big
What
question.
becomes of
They
So
it?
even
we're
have a pool
taking,
for side attraction.
yeah, we're taking taxpayers' money to invest in things that we don't need.
That the taxpayer is not going to benefit from.
Exactly, exactly.
you know yeah, it's called legal robbery. Anyways, guys, we're out of time. We're out of time today, and we will be back. YFC will be back with another episode uh soon, and many episodes following, so not to
Yeah.
worry, we will be back. And thank you all,
Yes.
guys, for being with us tonight. See you again on the next Alliance on the Move program next Saturday at 8 p.m. Good
Bye,
night.
guys.
Bye.